All right, this is a heavily requested one, non-metallic metal. So we're going to start with gold, and we're going to do a very simple gold. So I have my colors laid out here on my palette. I have Mahogany from Vallejo Model Air, Deep Red from Reaper Master Series. We got in the non-metallic metal gold base from Reaper Master Series, and Artic white. Now this is the number 2 white in the game color line. There's another the first white, which is dead white. I like the Artic white just a little bit better because it tends to cover a little bit better and it mixes well with other colors. It's a personal preference. Has nothing really to do with the color. There might be just a little bit of blue in it, but it's pretty negligible. Okay, so I've already painted my base here on this sword hilt. I'm going to do a fairly small object because non-metallic can take a while to layer up, especially gold, because yellow coats really terribly. But this is how I mix my base. So I take probably about 75% mahogany and then a little bit of this red here, and that gives me my base. Now I want to mix up my base with my non-metallic yellow gold base here. So I'm going to pull this to the side and see I already have a good bit already on my brush, and this is probably the mixture that I want for my next layer. And I didn't paint the base on camera because I didn't want to force you guys to watch me paint 3 layers of the same color. I do that, let it dry. Now I'm just going to fade this color out to either side and leave a little bit of my base tone in the center. When we're working with non-metallics, what we're trying to achieve is the look of a shiny metal. So it goes against what you would think normally shading a model would be. You want the light to come out at you. Now I know on these models that I've been working on, the Harlequins, some of the areas have the non-metallic reflections going up as you would highlight a normal object. And that's because those models are actually following another artist models, which is Hope River, and I've been requested to mimic what she has done on her Harlequin model. So if you want to check out her work, I've talked with her a little bit online and told her that I've been working on a project where I've been requested to kind of duplicate her work, because I always want to make sure that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes when I'm working on stuff, especially if I'm requested to mimic somebody else's work. I want to make sure they're cool with that. I'm going to rinse out my brush real quick because I got a lot of that base color in there. It's starting to affect my mixture, and I'm just kind of pulling my colors along as I go, because I want to be able to go back and step the color back down a little bit if I want. And I can always wipe off a little bit of my paint, and it's like a pseudo glaze to kind of blend the color back toward the end of each end of this hilt or pommel guard or whatever it's called. I don't fight with swords. All right, it's probably almost to our stark yellow here. Now the thing you want to keep in mind, again, when you're doing these fades up, is that your base color is going to be a good portion of your non-metallic area, and that's what gives it the metallic feel, is that half or more of the area that you're shading. Actually, I'm going to rinse this out one more time. Half or more of the area that you're shading is going to be the prominent color on the model, just because reflections don't take up a large portion of the model. And that's what gives you the illusion that it's a non-metallic. You can do this with any color. it's gonna look shiny, and then your last little pips of white, your reflections, are what's gonna give it that illusion of being a non-metallic. So it's just trickery. There's nothing special about it. It's just studying the way that light reflects off of objects. Because you see, like my highlight from my midtone to when I added the white is just the very tip of each part of this pommel. And so I'm gonna add a little bit more white to this. Brought it up too much. There we go. That's about where I want to be. Kind of add it just on the very end here. And that's probably my last highlight before I want to add any white. So, gold, it's that easy. So I take a little bit of just pure white, and I'm gonna highlight this little corner here, right here, and you know, I might want to go in and just add like a little glint in the middle of the sword to say like, hey, this is reflective too. And you can do that anywhere. Usually like the top or the bottom is fine. I'm gonna grab one of the ones that's been a little bit more developed here, the green harlequin number 3. Look at some of his metal areas. Again, this shading scheme here is working with someone else's material as a reference, so I'm kind of mimicking their style, and they have a very kind of top heavy and outward heavy shading for their non-metallic, so I'm mimicking that. Usually I'd take my highlights, instead of pulling them from mid-tone at the base here, I'd have my light color kind of in the middle of this flat spot, because again, the objects that are facing you, and if we're assuming that we're looking at this model straight ahead, this belt's a better example, because I use more my style with it, is that these objects here that are kind of in the center and coming forward facing you are where my brightest highlights are, and then I have a few pips of white. I see another good one, this helmet area here and maybe here. So you see how this highlight isn't at the very top, and how this highlight is kind of again in the middle of the object, and it's coming straight at you. And we got our highlights kind of scattered to make it look like the metal's kind of shining and catching light. Same with the knee pad's a pretty good example. The knee pad, instead of, you know, shading the top of the knee pad to go to the top of the knee pad, I pulled from the sides forward and up, and then, you know, gave that little glint line, a little bit of a highlight at the bottom of the knee pad to show that that hard edge is catching some light. And then a little pip here. This is not bright white. This is still white and yellow. And then I got my bright white. And I got a little bit of bright white there. Again, shoes. The highlights coming out and forward toward you. It's in the middle of the object. And that just gives you the illusion. Again, you can do this with any color. This is a very basic color scheme for non-metallic gold. If you want to get more advanced, you can start adding colors in, like purple. You can do a purple base, and I know there's a lot of artists that enjoy purple as a base color. But again, with this guy, kind of referencing other people or another person's work specifically. So I'm just mimicking her style, and I'll go in and paint this shoe after I connect it to the card bases that we're doing. And all the card bases that you've seen have been done in that same style. But I hope this was informative for you guys, and if you have any questions, let me know. We'll see you guys next time.